Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to yet another investing program taught by none other than our very own member, Mrs. Priyanka Narula, architect and founder of the Vickers Story. As you have seen, her projects define her uniqueness and her craftsmen are, uh, are weaving very, very exquisitely. And so now for the lighting of the lamp, may I request our Vice Chairperson, Mrs. Nandini Raju, Mrs. Priyanka Narula, Honorary Secretary, Mr. Hemlata Kenka, Joint Secretary, Mr. Arjun Nagni, Treasurer, Mrs. Palmuni Ravi, Joint Treasurer, Mrs. Nirmala Vasant Kumar, and Resource Center Member in charge, Mrs. Kusum Mishra.
Good morning, dear friends, members, and guests. On behalf of Craft Council, I warmly welcome you all for today's gathering. It has been the endeavor of the Craft Council to bring eminent speakers to share their insights. Through these talks, we hope to spark meaningful conversations and inspire deeper engagement with arts and crafts. Today, we're happy to invite Priyanka Narula. It's truly inspiring to see how she has taken a traditional craft and with her creativity given it a fresh, modern, and contemporary look. Her work has been recognized both in India and abroad. We are proud of her journey and can't wait to hear her story and the Vickers Story.
Thank you, Nandini. I request Mrs. Hemlata Kenka to introduce and take us through the brilliant achievements of Mrs. Priyanka Narula.
Friends, get ready to witness the magic of wicker craft with Priyanka Narula, architect and founder of the Vickers Story, a studio that has trailblazed a new design language for cane and rattan in India through expansive art installations, intricate sculptures, and sustainable furniture. Architect and designer Priyanka founded the Vickers Story in 2018 to explore and reimagine Indian weaving. Her studio merges parametric design with traditional techniques, crafting a bold language for cane and rattan through art installations, intricate sculptures, and functional furniture. The Hyderabad-based studio redefines cane and rattan craft by blending digital design with traditional weaving. Known for its art installations, sculptures, and furniture, the studio champions sustainability and zero waste production, which is a very big thing. She has achieved a lot of awards. Just few I will mention. Priyanka, well done from now only. Award for Concept Design 2024. It's called the Red Dot Design. JSW Craft Prize Fellow 2024. ITIDA 2024 and 2019. Lexus Design Award for Craft Innovation 2022. Multiple awards by IIT in 2022 and 2024. These are just a few which I mentioned, but the list is endless. Otherwise, we'll miss her talk. Vickers Story, apart from being an effective tool to realize customized and complex geometrics, also transcends scale and materiality into defining new protocols for designs. Priyanka is constantly attempting to create a symbiotic amalgamation of art, architecture, product in the precinct of craft and parametric design methodology, and thus celebrating the context of culture, color, tradition, and values in India. Experience the timeless artistry of cane and rattan weaving as skilled artisans are demonstrating the intricate craft life right here in front of you. I welcome Priyanka to CCD Spaces. Sharda, I request Priyanka to give her knowledge, her talk, I won't say a talk, an insight of the beautiful work that she's doing, and she happens to be a member as well. So welcome to CCT Spaces.
Hello, everyone. This is Odilu. Firstly, thank you for having me here. I've been a part of the Craft Council and I've started and gone through this journey of being an architect first and then with Vicar Story. So, this journey has been here in Hyderabad for 10 years. And it's really great. I'm really grateful that it wasn't just about what my education did to me, but also what the city gave to me. And I think the city has shaped to its final form where I'm standing today. So I'm grateful for everything, for the ground that I stand on today. I'll start with a small video presentation first. So when I won the JSW Craft Prize, so it's an award between the JSW Group and Architecture Digest magazine. And so they did sort of like one of the nicest documentation on us and my work. So I thought I'll just start with that first, with that video first. So it just gives you an insight, overall insight on what we do and how do we do and just the building practice. And then I'll come to my presentation work.
My name is Priyanka Narula. I run a design studio and manufacturing based out of Hyderabad and we are called the Vicar Story. I come from the city of Kanpur. I was always given a small pocket money and it was always nice to go to these areas and buy from hawkers, little curios, made clay, in pottery, in basketry and come back home with that big bag of so many things. Before starting with the story, I was practicing architecture for nearly 5 years and I wanted to explore complex geometry and organic geometry in my work. In 2018, we were commissioned to do an art installation around the idea of nostalgia. We picked up in me as a concept of design. We picked up cane and rattan work for the nostalgic value that it holds for all of us. It was interesting for us to find that the complex geometry was shaped at me as a purpose and the craftsmanship that the craft and weaver, plotting, collectively worked together to build something very interesting. And that was a starting point for us to say that there is potential and yes, a research starts here. From 2018 to today, we are a team of 20 weavers and carpenters and a design team of 6. Our goal and mission has been to explore on geometry, in basketry, in exploring chakai work, and finding new ways in addition to contemporaries in basketry in India. Basketry and mat making is a craft that's present in almost all the states in the country. It's both formal yet informal as a sector. The craft is known as a very specific stakeholders for specific regions, and it makes it easy for the design next holder like us to pursue craft in terms of not just for today, but also scaling it up for tomorrow. So every product of ours can be implemented as a skeleton and scaling system. The skeletons are made in natural clay bedding and the skin is made in 3 mm wide hand-woven tar. Once we get the paint into a factory, it is sorted into ultra and typology. There is an initial phase of chilling to get rid of every kind of deformities and aggregation on the surface. Now this paint is put into a process of bending, which is hand done. Once framing is done, we get the framing to our weaving tool. Weaving is the most intricate and the most skilled part of the process. It's a long process to weave, but once weaving is done, the pieces are weaved into assembly with a components with a fabrication tool. And post assembly, there is a finishing tool to find the polishes, and that's how it comes in. The vision for Wicked Story would be to create real design impact in the realm of basketry. Also, I would like to bring in serious economic impact for the people who associate with us. We would love for our viewers to come back to Hyderabad to be here with their families and for my craft community to live here and work with us.
So the video would have given you at least an idea in terms of what the behind the scene process is. We have a design as an operating system. We are a design studio which is based out of Gachibowli, and there is a manufacturing. We have a Karigari workshop which is in Katedan. It's an industrial area, but then that's also closer to the old city areas where most of our viewers come from. So my journey started as an architecture studio, and architecture studio is nothing but a bunch of designers. We're constantly thinking about designing spaces for people. So there's always a brief that you kind of address to. You're always understanding what the needs are. Why does somebody use a space for what purpose? And you're always trying to dig deeper into the relationship between people and objects, people and spaces. So the idea of running a design studio was sort of inbuilt in sort of how I want to operate or do whatever I want to do. And on the longer run, I've realized that that's become integral in the change and the scale that we tried bringing in with respect to the material. Design is extremely important because design, like, by the end of the day, what you see here is just a bunch of design ambitions that kind of materialized into actual forms. We realized that what for us was in 2018 when people said that this is old and outdated and who really buys it. Like, that is where my journey started, to spending 2 years figuring out, making pieces that I loved. I was making it because I liked it and I found potential, but then we weren't really selling for the first 2 to 3 years, like anything for that matter. So our journey started with nobody wanting to buy Wicker because it was supposed to be like the bottommost strata of craft that anybody wanted to coming to a point where we have some of the best commissions across the country. It could be qualitatively, functionally, or in terms of the scale. So design has been integral and central to the thought process of whatever we do. There is craft and there's design, and both go hand in hand. And design is our belief system. It is where we innovate, and we know that because of it, we can make lives better. So my journey started in architecture since 2010. I've practiced as an architect. I've built certain buildings. I've built a couple of farmhouses in Hyderabad. My master's in architecture was in this thing called as parametric architecture or digital architecture. So digital architecture, rather the world outside in any field right now, is talking about tech in changing the way we design, to build, to inhabit spaces. So that is what the idea of that master's was. So we were designing like some of the top architects around the world, like very complex buildings. And then we were talking about 3D printing and robotics being used to manufacture, aid in the materialization process of that. And then also there was a lot of conversation on how does data inform better building design. So this is what the background in my master's as an education was. And when I came back to India, especially I came to Hyderabad, I realized that, oh my God, like I'm really out of touch with the ground reality here. And I'll come to the conflict part of it as well. So that is what my architectural background was. Because in practice, I could not find the right outlet in terms of, I had design aspirations, but what I was doing, they did not sort of like come together. So I was parallelly, this is 2016 when I thought that, oh, I'm going to be somebody in 3D printing as a domain. So I first started with the 3D printed jewelry series and thought that tomorrow I'm going to talk about 3D printed buildings or 3D printed objects. This is another piece that it was an art installation that we did. It's a sensor-driven art installation. Something very simple, but the idea with that installation was is sensor-driven, data-driven objects. Is that the future of how we live and engage with objects? So between 2015 to 2018, I was sort of playing with different strategies to see what could work for us, and every strategy was around what I had learned in Europe, and I was trying to bring it to India, trying to be ahead of the curve. And Vicar Story, actually, the Imli that I spoke about was my first piece. I did Imli in 2018 as an art project where the idea was to talk about nostalgia. And I said the idea of Chintapandu is nostalgia because, we grow up, we leave homes, and all we talk about it. This is what my mom used to make. And that memory of Chintapandu is really deep rooted. So I said, I'm going to make an Imli, and the material for that is also going to be wicker. Because why? Because it's just outdated, right? But then that is going from tech-based strategies. This is the first time we said that I want to make a complex shape, unique shape, but then I am going to use craft, and just suddenly some magic happened there where I said that, oh, like there is knowledge base and skill. And the moment you talk about these elevated ideas and concepts and just bridge the two, I think it's about, that is where an Indian thought process is, in the current context. So this is a slide which is very important to me because when I was doing my master's, like I think a lot of my younger contemporaries would be in that state that when you're studying about, where the education teaches you to go forward, to think about futuristic concepts. And then in India, we see there's so much heritage, in the way how we live, how we dress, how we weave, so there's so much heritage on the ground today. We know that it is diminishing, but we are still fortunate to live through that. So, and then on the other hand, I was talking about 3D printing for manufacturing. I can't undermine it. It is the next force out there. But then, I was always like, how do you bridge the two? Again, parametrics, which was complex geometry, versus sustainability, where as an Indian ethos, we talk about handcrafting to simpler things. Then lastly, as a design practice also, should you practice or should you be a research-related studio? So these are all conflicts that I have lived through for many years in my practice. And over time, working over time, I realized that, it can be collective. Like I can talk about machines and craft at the same time. I can talk about parametrics and sustainability. I can be a research-driven practice with the successful business running parallel to that. So I think these are things that collectively, I think it's about living in a hybrid mode of moving forward and taking the heritage together. So for me, that, like, you have to live in the future and in the past both. Like, I'm fortunate that the past I'm blessed with the heritage that India has. So when we were looking at practice, we didn't know what we were doing. We were like looking for a style. And we said that, let it be, you can't develop and design something in today, that you design something today and it becomes your identity, but it has to be done over time. So when Vicar Story also happened, 2016, we made one piece. Then typically, I know furniture makers, how we go from one design type to the other. We are always jumping around. And Akbar Bhai is there. He's the first one who made the Imli for me. It's a starting point which we had. So when we did the first piece, every time instead of designing something new, our goal was that, okay, how do I make my next piece more complex? How do I bring a new dimension to my next piece? How do I now bring color and play with color? Now, if my objects are three-dimensional, how do I break the three-dimensionality into 2D pieces? And can those 2D pieces be assembled back into 3D for easy shippability? So it was sticking to the material and it was adding more and more dimension to it. So we said that design as a process for me is not one product, but design as a process, it's a long-term thing. And it is if I can't count my architecture practice, it's a 10-year long plan to build the idea of the practice. And for Wicker Story, I feel that 6 years. The last 6 years, what we have done is today I feel that I'm sitting on that concrete idea of what the material has potential for. Now, Wicker Story ka starting point was, as I said, as I spoke about Imli, that by the time when I did Imli, I was already running an architecture practice. I was doing a few farmhouses. I was having a good time in architecture, but I did see a potential, like the Imli piece is kept outside. Now, I'll compare between a normal furniture piece and the Imli that's there outside. Firstly, it's a small 5 feet long piece, but I realized that a simple craft can give you a jointless system. Before that, whatever I was doing in architecture, I had to limit myself to a 4 feet by 8 feet ka plywood sheet. And suddenly here was a solution, there was no joint. So whatever scale I built, tomorrow I don't have to worry that, oh, these are my limitations. My limitations were not that. Secondly, if you see the width, the dia of the piece is something that has to be according to a weaver who builds it. But the comparison to weaving work is almost like textile making. So it can grow endlessly. So if I made a 5 feet long piece, what's stopping me to make a 100 feet long piece? Like nothing really. Right? I mean, just the logistics of it is trouble. But if I have a 100 feet long piece, my weaver can weave it because it sort of like grows in one direction. Lastly, in Bunai, you can use a 12 feet long tar, or you can even use a 2 feet long tar. So whatever large scale works we were making, we were realizing my waste raw material, at least in terms of the natural material, was nothing more than one small bucket full of natural material that was a wastage. So we were minimizing on the wastages also. So I was at that juncture when I'd already done architecture. I'd played with a lot of other materials. I'm like, you know what? Weaving is not only giving me other materials give me structures. Weaving gives me a surface, and surface is what a final product is. A structure, internal framing is never a final process. So this slide is what we were taught at when we were studying complex geometry. When you look at surfaces, you need to figure out how do you go from a simple surface to a complex surface. How do you develop a complex surface? So for me, this 3D versus all my works, you see, there's a lot of parallel in terms of the material logic to the construction logic of what a surface is built up of. And that's why when Imli happened, I said that, okay, anyways, architecture is a struggle, I'll just pivot myself to another kind of struggle. And we'll see if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Now, again, I'm talking about my belief system in weaving. It's not like I have a furniture design background or I have a craft background. I don't. So for me, the joy was to be on this journey and discover it. The more I discover, I realize that craft is about people. The craft is about heritage. It is about materials, and it is about the length and breadth of the country as well. So India has 75 different kinds of mat making and basketry, and there could be parallels, but also there could be individuality, a lot of individuality between how we go from north to south. So a couple of examples on the chatais in the country, a couple of examples on the basketry, and they can, in terms of skill, they can go from extremely basic to extremely intricate. Secondly, like these pictures, what I'm showing are still from very formal craft clusters. But it's very interesting when people come to me that you're like, Priyanka, I love your work. Why? Because my grandmother, she comes from a small village, and she would like to weave these baskets for her daughter and all her relatives to give as a gift. Versus somebody talks about, let's say in Chettinar, mothers, like a family would make these really beautiful baskets as a part of the trousseau for the daughter. So the everydayness of basketry, the ease in which, like, it's sort of like a thing of the backyard. If you're not living in such an urban segment, it is a thing of the backyard also. So there's an ease to how basketry can exist, and I think I just find that beautiful, and it's sort of ingrained in the DNA of the country, north to south, basically. Um, According to my work, what I've realized that when you start with a design studio, you think that I designed it and I built something and I've sold it. That is where my work ends. I feel that the goals have to be, it's important that as a craft-based enterprise, the goals have to be really, really clear, and there have to be short-term goals and there have to be long-term goals. And you need to understand where change, really what all areas change can happen. So these are the 4 segments that we kind of, I mean, they're standard, but then they also guide us, because one is bringing a change in the market. Secondly, economic stability with respect to that, economic stability with respect to the people and communities involved. Market is outwards, where you need to figure out what is the right product and in what form does it sell. But by the end of the day, a weaver a craft person who associates is somebody who's running a family. It is a day-to-day for them. For me, it can be art, but for them, it's a day-to-day. So that economic stability is very important the moment there's association with craft. Then we're also talking about skill development, because the conversation is quite real when we say that craft is at its last generation. We really don't know if there is another generation for craft people out there. So as a craft enterprise, it's important that how do we talk about the today, tomorrow, and the future for craft within the country. Is it the same? Does it need to be evolved? What does it need to be do? But strategies and conversation on that need to happen. Lastly, globalization and modernization. I feel that I kind of focused more on contemporization and modernization, and it worked for me. So maybe that's the goal. So innovation is something that, like, when I'm talking about my company, I think I always focused on the word design innovation. That how are you pushing a material? How are you pushing a building strategy? So when somebody looks at my work, they're like, acha, it's form building, that is it, that's innovation, right? I think of a complex shape and I make it. I'm like, there are ways to, there are 2 parts to the work. One is the material and the other is the skill. So skill and innovation in itself is a part of discussion. Then material and how do you implement material. And so it could be application in what domain, it could be materials in different forms. So I'll just show you how we look at craft innovation in our practice. So this is not my work, but this is something that really intrigues me, where we have a hybrid system of building between 3D printing based objects and craft, and cane and rattan as a material. Something that we are working on currently. This is a collaboration project that I did with this brand called Cancel Plans. So they have these industrial waste from medical industries. So we use these aluminum strips, which are waste from packaging material, and we've created our own samples. So, and we've done like 1 or 2 projects where we've done these as partitions. This is a project where we won the Lexus Design Award for Craft Innovation. The innovation part here was that when I look at my pieces, they're very big and bulky. So transportation cost internationally is massive. So with this as an idea, we said that when we're talking about 3D geometry, can we design 3D, manufacture 2D, and then assemble it into 3D? So this became that idea. So all the ideas and objects that you see, they're actually 3-dimensional, like manufactured in 2D. So there are different aspects, like it's not one singular way that if my material is sustainable and I'm making it by heart, my job ends there. So they're always trying to constantly explore what are different ways to talk or innovate with material or with skill or with the sustainability as an idea. Lastly, architecture has been like sort of ingrained, as I said, that I'm not a formally trained furniture designer. So for me to design small is not in my DNA. So what started off as a setback initially that, people would ask me for a chandelier. And I'm like, I will stand with a 10 feet long piece. And they're like, what, my table needs only like a 4 feet long piece. So initially, it was very embarrassing for me to run with these kind of designs and scales in the market. And eventually, we just found a place in the market. So this is the first time we did a 30 feet by 30 feet long installation. So scale became a factor of, innovation for us. Lastly, this is kind of a goal. The right hand side picture is one of our 3Ds in the project. Left hand side is a very famous building which is a weaving in stainless steel, and it is a facade for a building. So when I'm talking about a concept like this, I'm saying that the skill stays constant, but the innovation aspect is material and application. The material is what gives you more application and like a wider parameter to play with. Lastly, just before I move to my next just slides, a couple of slides of my work. But over here, what I want to say is that one thing that I've dealt with since 2018 when I started. 2018 when I started, I spent 2 years with people telling me that कौन खरीदता है केन का सामान, right? I mean, like I spent 2 years in that. I've invested money. I have cried ki, what am I doing with my life? I'm like just wasting money like that. Because I was never getting anything out of this way or that way. So versus when people started like noticing us, people started liking us, and then after 2 years of registering us, they started telling me that it is just a trend. Like as in like, oh, that either me or market generally like wicker is trendy now, and then over time wicker will the trend will go. What will you do? You just like how do you stick around one material? So the idea was that how we were looking at it was that it's not about a trend, that I'm trying to ride a trend wave. It is about um, um, having a strong grip on the material and saying that I am providing space design solutions with my material. So let's say here what I'm saying is that it is a facade solution. If I go back, this is a space solution which is made custom made to that particular space. The samples on the right hand side that you see are actually like say, though we made them as samples, somebody is getting shutters made by them. So the moment it is a functional need, an object grows beyond a trend and it becomes a value, like a good value or a commodity. So because I think that's where architecture sort of helped us, and and the idea that I say that I run a design studio and I run a manufacturing. So that's why I think the design studio is very, very, very pivotal for us, where we say that can we provide a solution instead of a product. So these are a couple of my works. For INLI, we've gotten a Trends Design Award and a Triple ID Award for furniture design. This is organic surface we did. We were inspired by the works of Zaha Hadid, and we said that can I have a surface can I just wrap the whole space in organic shapes? Right, that was kind of the goal with this. We were invited by 20 under 25 by Design in Delhi, and we did this installation for them. So one more thing that I play with is I don't know, for some reason it's a blessing and a negative of the Indian market is that there's so much conversation on can I have something customized, and I've realized that you can't sit around getting every single thing customized. So instead of saying no to people all the time, I kind of think in terms of modules and scalability. So this as an idea was, it's called Ivy, like it's almost like a growing something, like it can grow on a wall, a ceiling. an art installation, but there are modules. So this one design gives me 10 to 15 other design solutions as per spaces. This is the first time we did this scale of this was done in 2019. It was an 11 feet tall, 21 feet wide wall piece. This is one of the toughest pieces that we've ever done. It looks simple, but then these are 13 feet tall curtains, 13 feet by 5 feet. The most difficult task in life is actually the moment you're trying to imitate something which is natural and inherent to another material. Wicker is a very stiff material, and we said we're going to do curtains out of it. And the beauty of a good curtain is how it falls and the weight of the curtain and how it's structured. And I think it was, but whatever it is, I think we pulled it off. We made the folds. The shadow lines is where my framing is. So actually, there's a lot of framing structuring in it, which actually is along the shape of the curtain, and then little lutkins to as hangings. This is when I think it's a residence in Jibril's road number 45, and it was interesting that it was a lockdown time, and people had started to say that I know everybody around me is sourcing entire furniture from Italy, but then you know what, like I want to do a very made in India thing. They were going around looking for Indian brands, and they also came to us. So we did the partition on the left, the benches and the lifafa chairs. It's outside. We did lifafa chair for them. This is that installation that I showed earlier. This is a 20 feet by 15 feet installation that we did, rather 23 feet by 15 feet installation that we did for a Pan Asian restaurant in Mumbai. The left side is a small video of that. This is for a private residence here in Hyderabad. It's for an entry foyer, which is almost like not a full double height, but like sort of 17 feet floor to ceiling height. And my piece here is 8 feet tall and 10 feet in dia. Just forgive me for the music here. These are actually all my reels, and this music is a little funkier for the presentation. But this is, on the right hand side is actually the picture is slightly cut, but then it's actually like it's a 62 feet long installation that we did for a project in Ahmedabad. So the idea is that like for me, a lot of my works actually go pan India, and when we are dealing with large scale work, there is like constructing everything in 3D, then saying that kis size ke container mein ya gaadi mein we are shipping it to the site. So we break down our pieces into that. Then we're calculating the number of joints that come, because if there are, let's say, between 2 joints to 10 joints, we need to send the number of weavers who are going to the site, and then the number of days and the cost of installation. It's just like a whole massive long calculation. But I think it's interesting. We've done it a couple of times, and I think initially it was nerve-wracking, but now we kind of enjoy the process of doing it.
I was down, but now I'm up. Yeah. It's all God, this ain't no lie. Yeah. I used to be stuck in that mud. Yeah, I was down, but now I'm up. I was down, but now I'm up. Yeah. It's all God, this ain't no lie. Yeah. I used to be stuck in that mud. Yeah, I was down, but now I'm
So So I think if you see from my like where I started was actually my first few projects in the first 2-3 years, and a lot of these larger works happen in the last 2 or 3 years. How we look at is we do installation, a lot of large scale installation works. There are specific modules, but then we adapt and scale and set it up to sites. We also do have more collections, so we have furniture pieces that we feel that people can readily buy. So, but there's constantly thinking that how do you develop products to be able to like not burden ourselves, our weavers, our design team, but also be able to give better solutions. So that's how we constantly thinking. Now I've realized that when I started off, I was only thinking like a design studio that I design, I make, I sell. So as I said that it's important to my initial set of goals were very design innovation driven, and I think today I'm quite happy. I'll not say I'm there, but I'm just happy with like say what I the story I've told with the material. I'm happy about it. But I think that I'm at a juncture where I need to define what my next 3 years are like, what my next 5 years and 10 years are like. And I think it's important to have the complete picture in place. Um, so like this particular line, what I say is that there has to be responsibility while working with craft, systematic economic sustenance and growth. It's quite important. Like I see a lot of designers working in craft right now, and the whole craft narrative in the market is sort of becoming that one collection is designed, then you move on to another craft, then you move on to another craft. Whereas one thing that I feel grounded to is that for me, if it's a means of if it's a means of livelihood, for somebody else, it's also a means of livelihood. When I'm talking about innovation to somebody else, it is about taking the ownership of the whole process. That's why it became very important that instead of designing my own pieces and giving it to clusters somewhere outside, it was important that I have my workshop set. So the profit is mine, but the loss is also mine. Any ups and downs are mine. And then the people who come and work for us, there's a stagnancy. There's a sense of stability in the working system. So, as a craft enterprise, setting up that workshop was very pivotal to not just the thought process, but also to being able to accomplish what we are doing. And that is what I mean by how do you talk about growth for yourself and collectively, because I don't think what may work today economically we may not work 5 years down the line. Secondly, not taking craft as a small scale cottage, like it is craft starts from somebody's home. But for me also, what I enjoyed was that the moment I set up my karigari workshop, the moment I set up systems, organization systems around it, I think I just found the structuring, like I took it like in any other manufacturing company being set up. And I think I really enjoyed the streamlining of it, like how is information processed between the design studio to a craft person. Like I don't go to a craft person simply drawing and saying ki acha ab samjho aur bana do. I never do that. There has to be a proper drawing system that goes and works for them. Second thing is that when we make such complex geometry, I feel like my production, it is become like a slow production format. When we pay people, we are paying them like a daily wage based payment. It's not a per piece based. Sometimes it is, but mostly it is not. Which means that if there is an issue in the work, it is on my head. It's not likely that there's complexity, you work over it, something goes wrong, it is on there. So I take care of that. So a working system is what sort of has facilitated us, and I feel that goals and craft beyond a design studio is something which is a sustainable way of setting things up. Lastly, I think largely there has to be policy making subsidies, acknowledging and promotion of the crafts segment. I like for me it was very disheartening that when I've come to Hyderabad, and Hyderabad is this like whole center for economic growth, I've heard so many times that an entire weaving cluster would just like completely shift to Hyderabad, get into menial jobs. So that kind of system is happening everywhere. How do we promote craft? How do we bring in better monetary gain for the people on the ground? And how do we bring in confidence also? Like Akbar Bhai sitting here, he for the first, like when he came to me after 9 aaye the mere ko, theek hai? So one thing he said to me that he doesn't have the pride in the work that he does. And I think over time, when he's doing this complex work, like when he shows it to other people, like other weavers, when older weavers they come to our factory, they're very proud of the work that they do. So I think a certain sense of pride also has to like be inbuilt into the people that ki this is their future is for themselves, for their family, and they are doing good job. They don't necessarily have to aim for those office desk jobs as a means to be able to grow. And lastly, I think this for me would be my long-term goal. These are goals actually more for myself also, that, I want to, how do I set up my next 5 years, where I've not done ample on this note, but I definitely want to make a social impact for the communities that we involve with. So this is what it is. So the journey is between design to the craft to the people. So it's a collective of all of that.
The questions way to take. Your craftsmen look really happy. Any questions for Priyanka? Anybody?
So all my works are a skeleton and a skin. So skeleton is a frame and the skin is a weaving. That depends upon one, the quality of the framework. Secondly, as we weave, we kind of, our weaving is tied into the framing also internally. So then like say chatais like those. I feel that a lot of people, like chatais are available in the market. People buy a chatai and people fix a chatai. I, on the other hand, I will never do that job. Why? Because the chatai is never tied to anything. So it will bulge, it will expand contract with various seasons. So let's say the same chatai, if it is not tied to a frame, during wet seasons, you will start seeing bulges or you start seeing it loose. So one thing is we make sure that the peripheral frame, the weaving is tied to it. And if there's a need, it is tied intermediately also. So that is where my skeletons sort of come into play.
What about the raw material that you're getting, and also we could try to color them and all that? Does it need, you have to be very...
So firstly, in terms of the raw material, there's a warp and a weft. One direction, the material is called as a core. The other direction, it is the tar. So core is the round, and it is actually universally, at least in India, pan-India, we get it only from international, like from the Southeast Asian countries. The tar is which is a material specific to my work, which we are getting like a 3 mm wide hand pull tar. So because it's hand pull, it's not very thin. And that is what gives the material, the product, like a lot of strength. That we get it from Bareilly, and it is made from the Assam, like the tar that comes from the northeastern belt. So as of now, over multiple orders, we realize that this combination is one of the strongest combinations that work for us. Secondly, in terms of the color, though I'm talking about sustainability, still my polishes and my dyeing colors are not sustainable. I do synthetic dyes in it, and then my polishing layer on top, it's a epoxy sealer and a PU top coat. So because initially in a couple of my initial orders, I did face problem with using simpler polishes and then having like the material would change color over time, so it will get black. So we realized that if we make a polisher stronger, one, the material, like what you see, is it stays for as long as possible, for at least 10 years. The color, there is no bleeding in the colored part of it, and there is no change in the color in the natural part of it. Only thing is that the natural material, when I'm making it, let's say you see here, fresh weaving is always lighter in color. You give it a month and polishing and a month, it will turn slightly more beigeish, but that's it. You won't have any color change beyond that.
after you started your work, how many more people have coupled to discussion on the marriage?
So,
I mean, are more people interested in leading this?
Um, so initially what had happened was we realized that they were like Hyderabad actually has a lot of weavers and craft people. It is that they were mostly in the Pune Bombay belt, in the Andhra belt, actually going, staying there, doing works, commissions, and coming back to Hyderabad. So I think my goal has been to ask those people to see that can we work out a system where they stay back and their families are here, homes are here, get like can you stay back and be here and work for us. That's how it's been. So we've like um as a company, there are weavers, there are framing guys, cane workers, there are carpenters, polishing, everything. So collectively right now we are at 25 to 30 years of capacity. So we've definitely, like, each year we're growing. Now in terms of growth, I think we're also trying to see that if there are smaller clusters that can start to work with us.
So nobody, anybody else, no? Okay. So that was really enthralling and has garnered a new insight towards this craft, Priyanka. And thank you so much for this wonderful talk and also and a memorable presentation too. We wish you all success in all your new endeavors. No, one second. I request Mrs. Nandini Raju and Mrs. Hemlata Kenka to honor Mrs. Priyanka Narula. Yeah.
Sir. In the small time, the Giuseppe Benucci. I know.
matching with your stuff, what you do, stand for a photo. It's good.
Request our resource center member in charge, Mrs. Kusum Vishwanath, to give the vote of thanks. Thank you all.
I'm sure you're quite dazed by the visuals you saw just now, creations of Priyanka Narula. So it's my pleasant task to say a word of thanks at the end of the event. There are many people to thank who have made this event truly a memorable one. It is at such times one feels proud to be a part of the Crafts Council. The joy of hosting young, talented artists to our own city dwellers. First and foremost is Priyanka Narula and her team. We thank her and the craftspeople whom she has carefully trained to create these exquisite pieces of art. We are proud to have her as a member of our council also. The Wicker story will be talked about for a long time to come. Best of luck and thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, our guests, students, members, and art lovers for encouraging us by coming to our event every time. Really grateful, and it gives us also a lot of strength and joy to arrange these. We'll get more and more interesting ones, and maybe with further collaboration with Priyanka. Coming home, I thank our CC team committee, chairperson who's unable to attend today, Anuradha Bishnoi, our secretary Hemlata, and all the other members of the executive committee. We would especially like to thank Rudramma, also a member of our executive committee, to help always arrange the snacks and the drinks for every event. Thank you, Hemlata, for the wonderful, delicious chai. Special thanks to our social media team working to comply with our needs and demands. We thank Anita for all the coordination for the posters, Instagram, and Facebook posts. Thank you so much, Anita. My special thanks to our resource center subcommittee who look at design, innovation,
and intervention in all areas of crafts. Special thanks to Yashwant and Meenakshi for having Priyanka here today. They insisted that we must have this session. Thank you so much. Our young twosome Sachin and Vijay, videographers, team from Red One Studios, have been videographing a few of our events. Probably find us demanding, but are very kind and patient. Hope they don't mind it. All recordings are edited and kept in our library. So anybody who missed this program or would like to again listen to Priyanka, they're most welcome. After about 10-15 days, it will be uploaded in our library desktop. Our office staff are always ever willing to help with the setup. Philomena, Bhaskar, Kishore, and our boys, all coming from Assam, where Rod of Cain also comes from, are indispensable. We thank them all. We look forward to seeing you all once again at our next event. Have a wonderful, enjoyable summer holidays and patiently wait for the rains and the sound of malhars ringing in our ears again. Thank you so much.